Quard serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Chambers serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. We have a quorum.
Okay, any review of the minutes? Why don't we all take a minute here to review the minutes and let me know if you have any questions. Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Moving on.
There is no public comment, and there are no tabled items. We're moving on now to new items for review. Item numbers BC 2020-20, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Karpinski Engineering, Inc. for general, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, architectural engineering services, and it's for the period June 15th, 2015 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $200,000.
Good morning. Matt Reimer representing the Department of Public Works. This requested item is an amendment request to add both time and money to an existing professional services contract for facilities engineering and architectural for facilities mechanical and electrical and plumbing engineering services. We do have in the department multiple consultant contracts for these kinds of services. We also consistently go out for solicitations to compete these contracts. But in addition, we also have certain business needs that certain consultants that we have brought under on a competitive process need to fill. This is one such amendment as well as the next two items. This amendment for Karpinski Engineering will allow us to continue critical mechanical and electrical engineering services at the medical examiner's building, as well as this vendor was the designer of record for our recent improvements at the Harvard Yard. So we will continue to utilize them for consultant services at those two locations.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Why is this contract simply being extended instead of being bid out?
For the business need that this vendor provides, they have ongoing designer services at the medical examiner building. It would be inefficient for me to change technically to another alternative. We have currently 4 mechanical, electrical, plumbing contracts under contract. We are soliciting now currently for another round for 2020. That process is in the on-base program to be competed here this year. So since this contract was awarded, we competed these services twice, once in 2016, once in 2018. But there is a business need for this particular engineer to continue services at 2 locations in the county.
How satisfied are we with the work they've done?
Vary at those 2 locations. I mean, you've seen me here for the medical examiner building quite a bit over the last 2 years. That building is going through some extensive life cycle changes in its mechanical and electrical systems, and we need to continue that effort to keep that building operational for the medical examiner.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, I make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Mr. McAleer, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, item BC 2020-21, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Kevin C. Robinette Architects, LLC for architectural engineering services for the period February 22nd, 2017 through February 21st, 2020, to extend the time period to February 21st, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Good morning. Matt Reimer from the Department of Public Works. This contract amendment request is to extend an existing architectural services contract as well as add additional dollars to the contract. Although I did not receive an advance question, I'm going to answer the same way for this item as well. Since this contract has been put in place through a competitive RFQ process, we have competed these services twice, once in 2017 and once in 2018, resulting in 4 additional architectural services contracts. This architect is needed to continue time-sensitive Board of Elections early in-place voting design modification requirements, projects that are in progress at the Hughes Building and at the Haley Warehouse.
Have you been satisfied with them, Matt?
Yes, we have, sir.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Have we decided whether early voting for the 2020 general election is going to continue to be held at the main Board of Elections headquarters, or are you going to move it over to East 40th Street?
So in consultation with the Board of Elections and the director, they've made the decision to continue those services at the Hughes Building, and that is the project that we have ongoing to design the space, the first floor space, to allow that to happen, both in time for the presidential primary in March as well as the general election.
I think that's probably a good decision. There's a lot of public familiarity with that location, and I think to move it for a presidential election would have been disruptive.
To follow on what has needed to happen, we do need to relocate some functions out of the building to make that possible, and that's the Halley Warehouse component of this.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mackler.
Now, to follow up from Councilman Miller's question, is it all going to be on the first floor now versus the first and basement level? Is that the work that you're doing on, in the pink room and opening that space up for it all to be on one floor?
Yes, I'm going to answer affirmatively. I will follow up and confirm that we don't have any functions going back down, but that is different than the previous solutions where people would go downstairs. This is intended to be all on the first floor, entering off of Euclid with accessibility entrance from the parking lot, and working through a series of support entities, and then the actual early in-person voting on the first floor only.
That's what the director presented during the budget hearings, so.
Yes, that's
I know
accurate.
council was supportive of that.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, item BC 2020-22, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Weiss Janney Eltzner Associates, Inc. for general architectural engineering services for the period November 28th, 2017 through November 27th, 2020, to extend the time period to November 27th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Again, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This professional services contract amendment request is for additional time and money. We competed this contract in 2017 and have since recompeted it in 2018, as I mentioned with the previous item, resulting in two other like contracts. The business need for this particular vendor to extend their time and contract is for facade planning for our city facade ordinance compliance. We have ongoing projects that they are the designer of record for at Courthouse Square and the Justice Center. And we are going to be doing assessments for the county courthouse as well as the police building recently acquired in this coming year that we need their assessment services for. This vendor authored the city ordinance back in 2015 and 16.
Okay, are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So this one, unlike the one previous, is only for 1 year. Is that right? And it's the same amount of money?
That's correct.
And is there a reason why it would be twice as much to keep them in as a supplier than it was for the previous? I mean, what is the difference in work that much more?
I believe the previous was is the same amount of the amendment request, Councilwoman, $150,000 for each.
But that one ends after 2 years. This one ends after 1.
Oh, yes, just how we forecast the ongoing need, when we think that need will sunset versus when we have additional contracts coming on board.
And though is that it's $150,000 for 1 year.
Yes,
The one previous is $150,000 for 2 years.
yes.
So I'm asking, why is it that we are anticipating that high of a dollar for 1 year?
So we know what those rates of service are for the types of work that we're asking the engineers to do. It's a little bit different. We have structural engineering work happening on this contract,
Okay.
envisioned for this contract versus architectural services on the previous, and for different business needs. So that we have our estimates of what we know that work will cost, and that's driven the ask on the amendment.
Okay. Because the first says architectural engineering services, this says general architectural engineering services. It just looks, at least on paper, to be pretty similar in what we're asking.
And they are, from a contractual standpoint, how we intend to use them. The previous item was for generally architectural services primarily. This one is for primarily structural engineering services.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Meckler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Item number BC 2020-23, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Great Lakes Petroleum for middle distillates for various county facilities. And it's for the period February 25th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to March 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This item, we're looking to extend the county's fuel contract with Great Lakes Petroleum for, I think it's 3 months, while a larger multi-year contract is being worked on right now.
Okay, are there any questions for Tom? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, item number BC 2020-24, Department of Development, recommending an award on requisition 47297 and enter into a sole source contract with Court Community Service in the amount not to exceed $100,000 for litter control services and oversight in selected urban communities. And it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021.
Good morning, Sarah Parks Jackson with the Department of Development. Court Community Services is a nonprofit agency that arranges community service work for adult offenders referred by a common pleas court, Cleveland Municipal Court, as well as the District Court and Prosecutor's Office Felony Diversion Program. We are seeking a contract with Court Community Services to provide litter control in the commercial areas of our communities improvement target areas, and those would be the communities that are eligible to benefit from our CDBG funding.
Okay, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Meckler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
For BC 2020-25, Department of Information Technology, recommending an award on requisition 45654 and enter into a contract with Service Express, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $172,191.59 for enterprise hardware maintenance and support services at various county locations. And it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2022.
Good morning, Janelle Green on behalf of the Department of IT. So this is for enterprise maintenance. So when servers fall off of the manufacturer's covered services, such as Cisco SmartNet, they will revert to this service, which will allow us for maintenance and support for ongoing past that time. This was an RFP. We submitted 20 names for the plan holders list, and we had 4 responses, and Service Express was the best option.
Okay, do we have any questions for this item? Councilman Miller.
Question on this item and the next one. Do these contracts have any relationship with the ERP project?
Thank you. I didn't respond to that, but no. These would be services that would be required outside of ERP, so it's not ERP related. And the next one is not either.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Mr. Meckler, please.
Just in general, in terms of the advanced questions, we usually get a response that IT doesn't respond in writing. Is there a reason why?
No, unfortunately, we didn't get that response until this morning, that question this morning. And we had other RFP meetings in between here, and so we wanted to address the items on the floor.
I mean, for most advanced questions of IT, though, I understand these might have came a little late, but traditionally every week, I don't know if you get the questions or if other individuals get the questions, but we typically get a response that the department.
So it goes to several people. So unfortunately, we did not make them for the last couple, but we'll make our best efforts to make sure that we answer them ahead of the meetings. Also, with this item, we were informed by Lenora Lockett that this vendor's registration with the Inspector General expired on December 31st of 2019. So we are asking for this to be approved contingent upon their renewal of their registration.
Okay, first off, any further questions on this item at all? Okay, then I will make a motion to approve pending re-registration. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, item approved pending registration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2020-26, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Great Northern Consulting LLC for support and maintenance on 5 Sun Solaris operating system T4 servers for the period June 30th, 2015 through June 29th, 2022, to expand the scope of services to add data migration services from EMC SAN to NetApp Enterprise Storage, effective on January 13th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $22,330.
Good morning, Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This is an existing contract that we're amending to add the scope for the disk migration. The EMC SAN, which is Storage Area Network, and it's all the stuff located down in the State Operating Computer Center down in Columbus. It's primarily the SAP and the MVP information, legacy, I should say. This is to change the platform to NetApp. The EMC Storage Area Network platform is end of life, no longer supported. Great Northern is conveniently located in Columbus, and Great Northern is the only Oracle representative to do this work on state term in the state of Ohio. There was an advanced question to Mr. McAleer's question, the ERP part, or ERP is answered, but why wouldn't we consider bidding this out? We have this present contract with them, and as you're probably aware, once the Harris project is complete, this should be able to go away. So mainframe operations continue to dwindle.
Okay, are there any questions for Dennis? Trevor, please.
Trevor, if you're going to ask something about Harris project, I haven't been in a single conversation with it besides knowing that this will work with that.
Okay, I was gonna,
No timelines on Harris are available from me.
I know the fiscal office and IT and the law department, I mean, this Harris project, which has kind of been overshadowed by the ERP project, but it's an important project, and it's been significantly delayed. This is an additional expense that we now have at the county because of the delay. Is that a fair statement?
Again,
Yes,
best of my knowledge.
I would say it's a fair statement.
If this is gonna go away, once the new project's in place, this is just something else that I think we need to take in consideration for everything with the whole project, with another 22,000 plus that we have to spend.
This will be a greater conversation we're going to be having pretty soon, so, yeah.
And then it's just saying, it's been kind of repeating with IT, but it is helpful, I think, to send out these questions and get written responses in advance, so some of these don't have to be covered. The written responses in advance would be appreciated.
Okay. Any further questions for Dennis? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, item number BC 2020-27, Fiscal Office, Department of Consumer Affairs, submitting an amendment to a contract with Nova Engelstein and Associates, Inc. for support and maintenance on the WinWham software system, and it's for the period February 1st, 2018 through January 31st, 2020, to extend the time period to January 31st, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $5,010.
So I'm Cheryl Harris, the Director of Consumer Affairs, and WinWham is Weights and Measures is one of our divisions. And this WinWham software is, it's the software that guys carry out with them into the field on laptops. All their tests are kind of conducted and recorded in this software. It will help us do enforcement. It helps us keep track of territories. And we are just trying to stay with that same thing next year. This is the same cost as the previous year.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2020-28, Department of Health and Human Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47657, which will result in an award recommendation to Tech Communications, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $346,392 for the purchase of one Cisco hyper-converged infrastructure system with related accessories, licensing, and support services. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Dan Basta, Health and Human Services. The current state of the HHS data center infrastructure is a few generations behind. Servers and storage and SAN connectivity technology is past the end of its life cycle, and support has been discontinued by the vendor, increasing the risk for failure and data loss. Some of the main advantages of working through this potential solution are that they are using a standard approach, they have simplified architecture, there's reduction in support costs and reduction of environments. There was a previous question as to why this was not bid out. The system that was recommended by the state aligns with all the systems within HHS, and also we're using state contract as a means to purchase because they ensure that they have the lowest costs, and they've already been bid out by the state. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, BC 2020-29, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with West Side Catholic Center, fiscal agent for provision of identification, documentation, crisis collaborative program services. And it's for the period March 1st, 2018 through February 29th, 2020, to extend the time period to February 28th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $170,000.
Good morning, Ruth Gillette, Office of Homeless Services. The Westside Catholic Center acts as the fiscal agent on behalf of the ID Collaborative. The amendment continues the services of the ID Collaborative for 12 months at the same level of funding as the previous 2 years. The collaborative consists of 30 sites throughout the county that serve homeless, low-income, and disabled persons. Clients are referred for assistance in obtaining needed identification documentation for the most basic of activities, just getting in the door of some public buildings, as well as to apply for benefits, employment, housing, enroll themselves or their children in school, etc. The staff of the ID Collaborative stays up to date on the ever-changing documentation requirements and fee increases. It has developed agreements with the Bureau of Motor Vehicles and the local birth registration office to package and expedite requests. ID staff also help figure out the complicated processes to get birth certificates, marriage and divorce papers, even child welfare information from out-of-state sources, including other countries. The majority of the contract is used to actually purchase the documents. In the previous 12 months, funds were used to obtain 4,868 birth certificates and 3,609 state IDs. The funding is 100% Health and Human Service levy dollars and was included in the OHS budget for 2020.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councilman Miller.
Just a comment, I think that this is a public-private collaborative program that has worked very well. I think if we tried to duplicate these services in-house in the county, it would probably cost more money and not be as effective as what's currently being provided.
Very good. Okay, I will make a motion to approve. I do agree. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2020-30, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47756, which will result in an award recommendation to the Young Women's Christians Association of Greater Cleveland, fiscal agent, on behalf of A Place for Me, in the amount not to exceed $118,000 for provision of system coordination planning and implementation implementation activities for ending and preventing youth homelessness for the period February 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2021, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
The YWCA acts as the fiscal agent for A Place for Me. A Place for Me's focus is on reducing and ending youth homelessness, which is a shared objective with the Office of Homeless Services and the Continuum of Care. The funding for this contract was awarded through a HUD planning grant that identified the need to develop a strategic plan for ending youth homelessness in our community. A Place for Me has a youth-led advisory board which will guide the development and implementation of activities to incorporate an authentic youth voice in the development of a needs assessment and strategies. A Place for Me is a leader in the Race Equity Design Lab, which is developing strategies to identify and respond to disparities in the homeless system and other public systems. The contract is for a 12-month period and is funded 100% by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The county is not required to provide a cash match to this grant award.
Any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So this is only for the planning of the implementation for the youth homeless
To the
project.
councilperson, yes.
So I guess I would ask, what happens after 1 year of planning? Is there a contribution expected by the county? Is there a match? Is there 100% grant being awarded? How will we pay for what the plan strategizes?
To the chair, to Councilwoman Baker. So there are currently funding streams in the community that are providing outreach, coordinated entry, rental assistance, and case management services to unstably housed and homeless youth. I think that developing a plan will enable our community to understand more completely the various systems' involvement in contributing to youth homelessness. So I like your question, but we're not really looking at, so presumably the plan will identify various roles and activities that can be pursued in the community to achieve the reduction and ending of youth homelessness. It will not require the county to make a commitment to fund any of those activities, but rather provide a blueprint and some guidelines about what we might try to then develop funding for. And then we'll look at many different sources.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I move to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2020-31, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an amendment to an agreement with University of Maryland, Baltimore, on behalf of the School of Social Work Institute for Innovation and Implementation to develop, integrate, and sustain best practices and programs to improve the well-being, stability, and permanency of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, and two-spirit children and youth in foster care, and is for the period September 30th, 2017 through, September 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to September 29th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $257,000.
Morning, Karen Anderson, Division of Children and Family Services. Again, this is the federal grant, which we are one of 4 sites in the country who are working to safely identify LGBTQ youth who are in foster care and involved with the child welfare system. And this money, the University of Maryland at Baltimore is the federal recipient, and we're a sub-award. And the reason that the dates are like this is this coincides with the federal fiscal year, and Maryland is behind in getting the grant from the feds and then turning around and sending it to the 4 sub-recipients. So we just received it recently.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, BC 2020-32, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Connect for Child Welfare, personnel, training, and consultation in connection with the National Quality Improvement Center of Tailored Services, Placement Stability and Permanency for Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Questioning, and Two-Spirit Children and Youth in Foster Care for the grant program, and it's for the period September 30th, 2017 through September 30th, 2021 for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $398,760.
Again, Karen Anderson, Division of Children and Family Services. This is a secondary piece to the federal grant that we received. This is to provide, we already had a contract with Connect for about $280,000, so we're increasing it by $100,000 thanks to University of Maryland giving us additional work. We are fortunate that we've been able to have youth come forward who are LGBT and they're feeling comfortable and safe enough. But of course, we need to provide clinical services to those young people. And so we're actually hiring, Connect will be hiring additional staff to serve those in the prescribed grant, that way we put it in the application.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councilman Miller.
How long is this federal program expected to continue?
Through September of 2021.
And what plans do we have as to what we're going to do when that time is done?
We are doing several things. There's some new federal legislation that's coming that Ohio is in the process of implementing, and we're looking at making one of Connect's programs through this process evidence-based, which could then be paid for through 4E funding in prevention services. But we are also, as we begin to look at contracts within DCFS, we will, and we have a number of supportive service contracts for, families who are in the process of getting their kids back or to prevent kids from coming into care. We are going to be addressing the needs specifically of this population and putting that out for an RFP. So there are several things. We also are, part of this is training in-house staff. I mean, some of it is clinical licensed work that we don't have a tremendous capacity for, but some of it, we are what we can develop in-house, we are developing in-house.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Item number BC 2020-33, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Cleveland Clergy Alliance for community outreach navigator services to seniors and adults with disabilities within faith-based communities throughout Cuyahoga County, and is for the period February 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Good morning. Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. This is an amendment to extend the time of the contract with the Cleveland Clergy Alliance for their Community Navigator program and for additional funds for the program year 2020. This program, since its inception, has connected over 500 seniors to cost-saving benefit programs that total more than $2,500,000 per year. And an additional 8,000 individuals have attended one of the outreach events that have been sponsored by the Clergy Alliance during 2019. We look forward to continuing this program for 2020 to hopefully reach more seniors that are involved with the faith-based community.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Paul? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2020-34, Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an amendment to a contract with Sadler Niekamp Financial Services, Inc., doing business as ProWare for modification, maintenance, and support services on the Civil Criminal Justice Information System, electronic filing system. It's for the period February 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2020, to expand the scope of services to add the CCJIS Sheriff Civil Application Support and the Sheriff Mobile Service Module, effective on January 13th, 2020. And for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $60,500. And B, submitting a memorandum of understanding in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Steve Witt with the Sheriff's Department. This amendment and MOU will allow our Sheriff Civil Division to begin using the same software and accessing the same electronic records as the Clerk of Courts and Board of Revisions do, which will decrease the amount of time taken to access these records, ensure that they're more accurate, and we reduce waste. If there are any questions on the reasons for using the system, Sergeant Greiner is here to answer those questions.
Okay, do we have any questions? Councilwoman Baker, please.
Is there a reason why this wouldn't have been included in the original contract?
So the contract is originally was made between the Clerk of Courts and Common Police Courts. We do have access to it, but it's under their contract. What this is a standalone module that's strictly for the Sheriff's Office Civil Division that allows us to use a system that would basically allow us to direct docket subpoenas and court paperwork, reducing the amount of paperwork, as well as expedite the docketing for the stuff that we put out as the Sheriff's Office. And collectively, it's going to kind of tie the system together and make it more efficient.
Okay, so you're accessing what's already there just through your own.
Correct, but before we had to always discuss with the Clerk of Courts, and because now our system is standalone, we can make our own decisions on how we're going to run it, but we also, that's what the MOU was for, so we don't globally change the system. That would affect their areas as well. So it's something, it's an amendment to tie into the system that's currently there, but it's a standalone aside from theirs.
Do they have any concerns or objections to that?
No, this has been, we've spent quite some time talking about it, finding out the best way to merge it together so it works best for all parties.
And to add on that, my understanding is that when they go to replace this system at the end of 2020, that we will be included in that.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thanks.
May we go back for a moment to the previous item, and I'd like to ask an additional question.
Sure. Are they still here?
Yeah, looks like Paul left.
We'll contact them offline. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2020-35, Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47606, which will result in an award recommendation to Seneca County in the amount not to exceed $48,500 for outsourcing prisoner board and care services to reduce the average daily population in the county jails. And it's for the period January 13th, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Steve Witt with the Sheriff's Department. This is a continuation of our current agreement with Seneca. This is just an additional DO not to exceed $48,500. Seneca offers the lowest rates for housing our inmates, and my understanding is that we have no plans to send additional inmates over there. We just anticipate letting the current inmates that are there ride out the remainder of their sentences.
Okay, are there any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Baker, or Miller, please.
Thank you. Are there any other counties that we currently have such contracts with?
We currently also use Wood and Geauga counties, but as I said, I believe that we just anticipate letting the current inmates that are at those facilities ride out the remainder of their sentences.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Baker?
And how many inmates do we have at this facility?
I do not have that number on
48,000.
hand. I will find that out for you.
Okay, and perhaps, as long as you're going to look into it, how much longer you think they're going to be there? I mean, you have this to the end of this year, so I guess I would anticipate that all of them would be gone by the end of this year.
I believe we would anticipate that as well, but I will double check for you.
Thanks.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, BC 2020-36, Sheriff's Department submitting an amendment to a contract with Western Reserve Psychological Associates, Inc. for psychological evaluation services for new hire sheriff deputy candidates. And it's for the period May 20th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, to modify the scope of services to remove the Guilford-Zimmerman Temperament Survey and the group interview effective on January 1st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $40,000.
Stephen Witt with the Sheriff's Department. This amendment will continue using the services for psychological evaluations for new sheriff deputy hires. There is a mention of removing two services, the Guilford-Zimmerman Temperament Survey and the group interview. My understanding is that they don't currently use those programs, so they've opted to just remove it from the contract completely. If you may remember, previously we brought forward a award recommendation off of a RFQ that would replace this, but there were some concerns over the number of bidders and some of the language that was, some of the requirements that were requested. This amendment will buy us some time to submit a new RFQ with more open language to try and solicit additional submissions.
Okay, are there any questions?
Oh, sorry. It was also brought to my attention that the vendor's IG registration expired at the end of 2019, so we request that this be contingent upon them registering with IG again.
Okay, first, do we have any questions on the item? If not, I will make a motion to approve pending re-registration. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2020-37, Sheriff's Department submitting an amendment to a contract with Alternative Body Connections, LLC, for inmate physical therapy evaluations and treatment services. And it's for the period June 24th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $20,000.
Stephen Witt with the Sheriff's Department. This is an amendment for inmate physical therapy. My understanding is they are currently working on getting this included with the current Metro contract, and that discussions on that will be beginning this week. So this amendment is to provide Metro time to negotiate that inclusion into their contract and set up operations to conduct these physical therapy evaluations. There was a question regarding the vendor's IG registration. The vendor is registered under the sole proprietor, Kurt Zillman.
Will that be an issue? We're good? Okay. Are there any questions on this item? Mr. Mackler.
Stephen, do you know when the last time we bid this out was?
I don't believe, I'm going to assume 2018, 2019, but I will check for you.
Anything else in that item? No? Okay, seeing none or hearing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2020 2020-38 Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47758, which will result in an award recommendation to Integrated Precision Systems, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $7,750 for the software upgrade of 19 security servers from Windows Server 2008 to Windows Server 2016 or higher. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Janelle Green from the Department of IT on behalf of the Sheriff's Department. This item is for professional services to assist in the server software upgrade for the county-wide facility/jail camera system. This upgrade will also also include adding additional redundancy to streamline future upgrades and system maintenance. The server software upgrade will include an application upgrade that will have additional feature sets to streamline county operations, for example, built-in redaction software. The support for the application and system requires the additional staff and time from the IPS staff to support the application and system migration, just because this is their data and want to make sure that it's set up correctly. This is a time and materials and agreement, and the county will be billed on hours used.
Okay, do we have any questions? Mr. Mackler, please.
Can you talk a little bit more about that redaction component, what, for this particular upgrade, what that?
So, and speaking with Jeremy this morning, which is, again, why we didn't answer all the questions, because we had to pull information from other sources. Speaking to Jeremio, this will be some redaction software to allow for the blurring of faces on the camera software. Currently, the data has to be exported and then imported to another system and to have all that blurring occur. This application will allow that to happen within the IPS, the Galaxy system. So it would decrease the time that we require in order to submit for subpoena requests or public records requests.
Any further questions? Councilwoman Baker, please.
It says that we are upgrading 19 security servers from Windows Servers 2008. This is 2019. Is there a reason why there's such a gap for these 19?
So it was using where everything's set. So when you look at server software, it's kind of like when you think of like Windows, what is it? What are we on now? Windows 10. So it's like upgrading from essentially like Windows XP, which is, kind of ancient, to now. So we've been using that camera system for a while, and knowing that the applications work on that particular operating system for servers, we left it alone. But as now, Microsoft is no longer supporting Windows 2008. So there's a need to upgrade, and along with these upgrades come other upgrades to the application that we can kind of partner with to make sure the operations go more smoothly.
Okay. There wasn't any indication before now that this would be obsolete?
There was, but there was us, trying to make sure that all of our servers really were not on the 2008 platform. So with this, we had to figure out who was the best at migrating the services, because IPS, this is, again, the system that they operate with Galaxy. So it made sense for them to be able to move this and migrate this data from the old system to the new system.
Anything else out there that's somewhat antiquated that you'll be coming back for?
I don't believe, and this is to the best of my knowledge, not in reference to the IPS software, but there are server upgrades that we requested through the budget hearings in order to upgrade some of the servers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Item number BC 2020-39, Medical Examiner's Office, submitting an amendment to a contract with Avantra Group, Inc. for biomedical waste removal services for various county departments for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $22,200.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. Our office initiated this contract for biomedical waste removal, but this was done at the request of the court.
Okay, any questions for Hugh? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2020-40, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, submitting an agreement with Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities in the amount not to exceed $64,400 for forensics jail liaison services for the Cuyahoga County Offenders with Developmental Disabilities Program in connection with the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, community-based corrections programs, non-residential misdemeanant programs as well, and it's for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021.
Good morning, Marty Murphy for the Corrections Planning Board. This is an agreement with the Board of Developmental Disabilities. The court uses this to pay for a portion of a liaison from the Board of Developmental Disabilities to operate in the jail so as to identify clients who are under their purview and get them out of the jail as fast as possible and back into community support where possible.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Marty? Councilwoman Baker?
So we are, if I'm reading this correctly here, are we 6 months into this contract already? So how have we been able to provide those services being 6 months? Right.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Like many of our contracts, this was one that it's actually a two-part answer. It was one that came through the state process with CCA dollars that we were unable to even move forward until sometime in September. The Board of Developmental Disabilities, I'm not sure what their internal processes are, but the contract was returned to me at the October 19 Corrections Planning Board meeting. We had it on base in November, and it resides with you today. Services, as with all of our community corrections and grant-related contracts, are ongoing, and because of delays by the state, by boards or vendors we work with, or this body, we do not stop services to offenders, and we keep the process moving in the meantime.
And how do you fund that then?
It's presently, we owe them 6 months worth of remuneration.
It's provided but not paid.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, item BC 2020-41, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a master contract with various providers for diagnostic clinic psychologist services, and it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, to remove various vendors and for additional funds in the total amount not to exceed $175,000 for a contract with Randall S. Bainan, B, a contract with Edward A. Becker, C, a contract with Terry P. Pinsenault, and D, a contract with Douglas E. Waltman, and removing the following vendors effective January 1st, 2020. E, a contract with Robert Kurtz, and F, a contract with Lakeisha L. Sharp.
Good morning, Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is an amendment for our psychological contract that we have. All of these individuals work in our diagnostic clinic and can provide various types of evaluations that any of our courtrooms may need.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, item number BC 2020-42, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a master contract with various providers for trauma-informed residential treatment services, and is for the period October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2020, to remove various vendors and for additional funds in the total amount not to exceed $84,075 for the following vendors: A contract with Grace Haven, Inc., B, a contract with Keystone Richland Center, LLC, doing business as Foundations for Living, C, a contract with Ohio Guidestone, D, a contract with the Village Network, and E, a contract with Youth for Tomorrow, New Life Center, Inc., and removing the following vendors: F, a contract with Clarinda Youth Corporation doing business as Clarinda Academy. And G, a contract with Woodward Youth Corporation doing business as Forest Ridge Youth Services.
Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is an amendment to our trauma-informed residential treatment services contract, and they provide trauma-informed residential for our Safe Harbor docket. This is part of our VOCA grant award. It is late due to the fact that we didn't get our VOCA grant award until late October, early November. And then we also struggled getting some of the vendors to respond and provide all of the required paperwork.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Sarah? Mr. Mackler?
This item and then the one before, just in terms of the removal of the vendors, is it that the court doesn't want to work with those vendors anymore? Do they no longer provide the services? Is it a performance issue, or what's the?
With the first one for the psychologist, the one individual, Dr. Kurtz, he is retiring. And then Ms. Sharp was, she was located here and then she's relocated. And in regards to the trauma residential, for these two vendors on this particular contract, we didn't really use them very much in the last term, so they didn't apply to be part of this grant term.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Oh, okay, sorry. Next item, sure. Okay,
Next item,
item approved. Yeah. Good?
I have a question.
On this one, I apologize.
Before.
On the one before, go ahead. What do you have?
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. On item number 40, did we get clarification on the ones that were not registered?
I'll have to.
for 41.
No, 40. 41, sorry.
In regards to the IG registration, we'll have to double check to make sure that they need to be, and if they do, I'll contact them and have them redo theirs.
So do we need?
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that it was an issue. So can we go back to 41 and make this approval contingent on IG registration? First off, do I have to amend the item again, or how do you want to handle it? Motion to reconsider. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, it's approved. So we'll go back to item 41, and I'll make a motion to approve contingent on IG registration. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Miller. All those in favor say aye. Okay, item's been approved as so.
Sorry about the delay. I missed it.
We're good on that one? Okay.
Moving on to item number BC 2020-43, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, recommending an award on requisition 45552 and enter into a contract with Mizanin Reporting Service, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $80,000 for court transcription services, and it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021.
Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. We did issue an RFP for court transcription services, and we received 2 responses. Mizanin was the bidder that won. We've used them in the past, and they've provided good services for us.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, I'll motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thanks.
Moving on to item number BC 2020-44, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a master contract with various providers for safe space housing services for court-referred youth for the period October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2020, to remove a vendor and for additional funds. A contract with the Village Network in the amount not to exceed $68,664, and B, to remove a vendor effective October 1st, 2019, which is a contract with Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry.
Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is another amendment that is part of our VOCA grant, and this is for the safe space housing, which is a 21-day or less initial stay for these kids on the Safe Harbor docket. It's a way for them to start getting assessments and start to get linkages put in place for when they return back home. The reason why we are removing Lutheran Metropolitan Ministry is we did not refer any youth there last term. We've only used Village Network so far.
Okay, are there any questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item, item number BC 2020-45, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division. A, it's a two-part item. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47089, which will result in an award recommendation to Fisher and Phillips LLP in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for legal services for the period October 28th, 2019 through October 31st, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is a contract with Fisher and Phillips, which is a law firm that we are contracting with to provide legal services to assist us in our union negotiations. I did receive some advanced questions and responded. I'm not sure if you got our responses. We did reach out to both the county law department and the prosecutor's office to assist us in these negotiations. However, both departments declined to assist. I believe it was more so they just did not have the manpower to help us at the time. And it is late based upon the fact that we needed to start this contract immediately as the union agreements expired on 12/31 of 19. So we needed to get the firm in and get them started as quickly as possible.
Are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker.
So this was the response from the prosecutor's office or our law department, was it a definitive answer, or they just didn't get back to you, or?
They got back to us and declined.
Okay, and not really any reason? You're just
I believe,
speculating?
at least in regards with the law department, they did not have the manpower to help. I think there was a lot of other things going on in the county at that time, and they didn't have the folks to spare to help us in the time frame that we needed.
Okay, and so you did say, though, that these services are now in place?
Yes.
And no payment has been made?
We have not paid them, no, but they have been at the court working.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Councilman Miller.
Have you requested such assistance from the law department or the prosecutor's office on previous occasions, and if so, have you gotten the same response, or at other times have they agreed to provide assistance?
I'm not sure, I could double check, but I'm not sure if we've had to reach out for them for this specific purpose in regards to our union negotiations. I know in the past if we've had to reach out for questions on just, maybe some standard contracting things or how we want to do things at the court, I know both departments have been, willing to assist or answer any questions we've had, but I'd have to double check if we've needed any help with our union negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions?
Yes, one more.
Sure.
Was this item included in the budget for 2020, or will this be an additional expense that was not anticipated?
We actually had to request additional appropriation in 2019 for this initial $50,000. And it's looking like we are going to have to amend it here shortly and request additional appropriation in 2020.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I'll make a motion. Oh, sorry, Lenore, go ahead.
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. Again, this vendor is not registered. I'm not sure if this falls under an exemption under not Guardian and Midlothian, but assigned counsel providing services. So at this point, I would request that we can consider it contingent upon registration.
Absolutely. I will make a motion to approve this item pending registration. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2020-46, Department of Law on behalf of the Department of Development. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47820, which will result in an award recommendation to Ulmer and Byrne LLP in the amount not to exceed $70,000 to represent Cuyahoga County in connection with negotiations of financial inducements to retain the headquarters and research facility of Sherwin-Williams in Cuyahoga County, and is for the period January 13th, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Greg Huth, the County Law Director. This is this authority to engage Ulmer Byrne to assist us in the county's development department in both negotiating and structuring any incentive package that we're developing right now to keep this major employer here in the county. As Andrea said, it's a not to exceed amount of $70,000, which is actually a pretty good deal when you look at their hourly rate overall. So I want to seek your approval.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilman Miller.
Do we expect that this might take the full year for these negotiations, or is that being written that way just as a fallback position, and we expect that it will not take this long?
Mr. Chairman, the councilman, that's exactly right. It's more of a fallback, just a safe number, a safe date.
So, how long do we expect it will take?
Oh, sir, that's a good question. This is a major company. It's a pretty substantial package altogether from when you look at all the different players involved, so it's hard to say at this point. But the budget in there is would total about 240 hours at the hourly rate we projected. So, but it's I can't give you a specific 3 months, 4 months kind of time period. I just don't want to do that and be wrong.
And do we expect that there's going to be an incentive package in which multiple public partners contribute to it in various ways?
Mr. Chairman, the councilman, that's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Any further questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Just a quick question. I see on the backup that this needs to be signed today.
Yes, that's correct. We're actually got a meeting scheduled this afternoon. So.
Is there a reason why it couldn't have been brought sooner on the agenda?
It's just a timing thing. I have to go through several different approvals with the prosecutor's office and so forth to get somebody on board. So it's just a timing issue.
And if I may, do we believe that the 70,000 will be all that will be needed?
Yes, in fact, we bumped this number up at one point after I got a better understanding of what things were going to look like. We decided to bump it up just again to be on the safe side.
And are you and others in the law department in this?
Yes.
You're okay.
Yes, we
You
will
are
be.
in it 100%. They're there just as an additional guidance.
Well, there's a couple of different ways to look at that. So as I said, it's a big company. It's publicly traded. There's some nuances that go along when working with publicly traded companies that I think we need this additional expertise for.
Okay.
So,
But you're not just handing it to them. You are very much involved.
we'll be involved, certainly. Mm-hmm.
Councilman Miller.
This seems somewhat new. Are you aware of other instances where we've contracted out services to negotiate an incentive package?
There have been one or two where it was actually ended up being paid by the client. But this is the first time I think we've brought one in this, because in this case, it's going to be paid by the county. And in fact, I want to keep this in the law department, so we're managing it rather than, say, having a prosecutor's office manage it.
So these one or two that you're thinking of, which were those?
The transaction we did with on the Playhouse Square project for that $10 million loan that we made to them for that that apartment tower down there.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
Mackler.
That example, though, that they weren't representing the county in the negotiations, right? They were helping create the package. They weren't specifically representing the county.
Splitting hairs, but I mean, we were helping us develop that, and we actually put the package together. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so has Ulmer, have they provided any services prior to today?
No counsel.
Okay, and then originally when we talked about this, we thought it was going to be $35,000.
Mm-hmm.
What caused it to double?
I had some additional conversations, Chairman, to Trevor, that with the department on what this package could entail. So we felt it was better to bump the number up again, just to be on the safe side, so we don't have to come back.
And then part of the advanced question
Didn't see that.
related to the overall agenda of any items considered a walk-on. It was indicated that this hasn't gone through the on-base workflows yet to receive all the appropriate approvals. We have known about this for what, at least a month that we were going to use outside legal counsel?
Probably, yeah.
But how come?
Actually, by now it should have. We started that process about 2 weeks ago, so we'd be, at least have it started before last week. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just telling you what the response is. It hasn't gone through the.
Greg, right now it's still with the department. The person who is going to submit it, I can't remember her name, but it's still in her queue, so it has not left the department's queue yet.
Was it law department or DOD?
DOD.
Okay. We'll make sure all that's fixed. We
And
got 'em
also,
started on-
they're not registered yet.
Right, we started that process a couple weeks ago too, so.
Registration number. The Inspector General's website hasn't been updated, but we have the registration number and they are registered.
Was that your question then? Okay. Any further questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
So we've been hearing about Sherwin-Williams for quite a while. I don't know how long, a year, maybe more. We're now, it looks like we're at the nearing of the finish line of putting a proposal together.
I don't think I'd say that, but.
Okay. Well, we're signing this today and we have 70,000. We hope will last maybe 3 or 4 months. Sounds like we're winding things up.
We could be.
Are you at any point to let us know, how confident you are that this package is something that they will agree to? And given that they're a Cleveland-based company, that they haven't given indications that they're just waiting for the formality to be presented?
Councilman, I can't comment on that.
Okay.
Councilman Miller?
Are we far enough along that there is at least a first draft of an incentive package on the table?
That's going to be I'm not aware of one. I mean, that's probably the ideal, why this is an ideal time right now, so that we can use the firm to help us structure all of that.
Okay.
Mr. Mackler?
Greg, does this count towards the amount of outside legal counsel that the county can hire without prosecutor's office?
Trevor, no, it won't, because we've worked with the prosecutor's office, and once this is approved, then they'll take that judgment entry into the court and get it approved by the court.
All right, they are going to.
Yeah.
They are going to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And they're only going to represent us? They're not going to represent the city or the state?
Oh, no, they're just us.
Does the city or state have outside legal counsel?
My understanding is the city does, the county, or the state, I don't know.
Further questions? Councilman Miller?
Keeping Sherwin-Williams in Cuyahoga County and Cleveland has to be a high priority for the county. I move approval.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded by myself. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to C, exemptions. Item number BC 2020-47, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47002, which will result in an award recommendation to AT&T Corp. in the amount not to exceed $924,259,095 for network connectivity services for the Next Generation 911 system, and is for the period July 31st, 2019 through July 30th, 2024.
Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. Andrea, can I ask you to repeat the dollar amount?
924,259.95.
Okay, thank you. Yes, as I said, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety. And these circuits, the ASC portion circuits, are what connect the public safety answering points to the county's 911 system. This is what the 911 calls actually go over. And the radio circuits allow CCOMs to communicate with the county PSAPs via radio. And this issue was delayed, as I've mentioned, with the previous action. We were not able to get the quote from AT&T until August 29th, and we did not receive the final executed document from AT&T until December 9th.
Okay, are there any questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Next item, item number BC 2020-48, Corrections Planning Board submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 46988, which will result in an award recommendation to Passages Connecting Fathers and Sons, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $1,065,476 for implementation of the Cognitive Behavioral Interventions Employment and Job Placement for Probationers Program in connection with the Ohio Community Corrections Act grant, and it's for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021.
Morning, Marty Murphy for the Corrections Planning Board. This item represents our contract with Passages, Inc. for our job placement program for probationers. This is the second iteration of that contract. We initially did an RFI process in 2018 and selected this particular vendor out of a number of vendors that applied for the program. It's been very successful in getting our folks actually jobs in the community. And at the present time, there are more jobs available that we could put in than there are probationers taking them.
Okay, are there any questions for Marty? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item approved.
Next item, item number BC 2020-49, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division is recommending an alternative procurement process to allow quarterly repetitive food purchases in the amount not to exceed $1 million for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021.
Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This item is just to allow us to complete our quarterly food bids for 2020 and 2021.
Okay, any questions for Sarah? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, item approved.
We're moving on to item number D, consent agenda, item numbers BC 2020-50 through BC 2020-60.
Why don't we take a minute? I know there was some questions put out there, and let me know if you have any follow-up. Trevor?
Well, Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, we did ask some advanced questions, so we got responses, I think, for all of them. But in terms of BC 2020-53, council staff has had some conversations with the Treasurer's Office and the Law Department about this item. It's going on 4.5 years without approval, and because of that, I would request that that one gets sent to council for further discussion.
Okay, you certainly have the right to do so, so I will make the recommendation to go ahead and send that to council. I guess we don't have to vote on that, do we? No?
I don't think so.
No. Sure, Councilwoman Baker.
I was just a little surprised on the travel expense that we're asking for this approval after the trip's been done. Is there a way that that can be prevented for future use? Is that just a glitch and a circumstance couldn't be controlled, or? I mean, I see your answer, but I just wonder, is that going to happen again?
I don't expect it to happen again. I think really part of it, the holidays contributed a great deal to it, because as we've mentioned, we did submit it on the 17th of December, and typically that would have hit an earlier agenda.
Okay, and we didn't know of this travel until the middle of December?
It's not that we didn't know of the travel. The challenge that we were having with this one is that the travel is EMAP is an accreditation process that is paid for by FEMA. And typically, EMAP would be paying for all of the expenses associated with it. However, Ohio law doesn't permit that. And so we were trying to figure out the best way to handle this, whether or not the employee was going to incur all the costs, or whether or not EMAP was going to bill us directly.
Okay. All right, so it's an unusual circumstance.
An unusual circumstance, yes.
And ultimately, the employee takes the risk, or the department, because if it's not approved. Councilman Miller?
Can we contact the state and I mean, I don't see I don't see how it affects them, why they're not willing to allow us to accept.
Not to put him on the spot, but I don't know if the inspector, we actually went to the Inspector General to get an opinion on this, and he can explain.
Mark Griffin, Inspector General. It's the view of the Ohio Ethics Commission that if a accrediting body pays for travel, that is an inappropriate conflict of interest. And it's something that has unfortunately affected a lot of our departments. So it has been up to them that they look at it as an ethics issue.
Okay.
There has been some discussion among departments within the county about asking the Ohio Ethics Commission to reconsider that, because it does seem odd that here they're going to pay for us, so why shouldn't we get the money? But that hasn't happened yet.
So Mark, is it up to the departments then to request that? Is that what you're saying? Or the county as a whole? Or?
I think any department could, but I know that there are several offices that participate in statewide organizations where this is an issue not just for the individual county department, but for similar county departments around the state. And it just seems, I think people legitimately raise questions about, is this really a conflict of interest, and why is the OEC taking that position? So it could be a particular department, or it could be an association of officers.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any further questions? Councilwoman Baker.
I don't see this very often, the medical beds that we're increasing 2 more on top of what's there. Is that adequate? Would you like more? How do we get to 8?
Stephen Witt with the Sheriff's Department. There are currently 8 total medical beds within the jail facilities.
Okay.
4 for females, 4 for males. We are replacing 6 at this time. The 6, they currently have broken controls. They don't elevate properly, any of that. So those will be disposed of. The 2 remainder, they plan on replacing with full electric medical beds. They're much more expensive. But these 6 are just basically metal frames with higher adjustability.
So the total stays the same. You're not really asking for more.
No, these are replacements.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I will move to approve today's consent agenda item as listed. Do I have a second? With the one that was
Item number BC 2020-53 has been withdrawn and will be considered at County Council's board meeting.
correct. Thank you, Councilman Miller, including the one that's been withdrawn. Do I have a second? Second. By Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Any other additional business?
No other business at this time. I would just like to make a public comment that due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday taking place on Monday, January 21st, the next scheduled Board of Control meeting will take place on Tuesday, January 21st, because Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday holiday is on Monday, January 20th.
Okay, duly noted. I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.